So many times I hear from a lot of you, and I think there's a lot of wanting to get their bookkeeping done, but not exactly knowing where to start and how to be committed to it. And so I thought I would create a video on how to create productive bookkeeping habits and exactly what to do. And so we're going to talk about that today. I'm going to give you my top tips. I think I have 5 in total. And I just wanted to remind you that if you are a fan of these videos, go ahead and give this video a like and make sure that you're subscribed to my YouTube channel. Also, I have a weekly newsletter that goes out every week. I would love for you to sign up and to join the crew. I'll go ahead and leave a link in the description box below. If any of this video resonates with you, I would also love to hear back from you. So feel free to leave a comment down below and let's jump right into it. Now, the first tip I have for you today is to be committed to yourself. And I think this tip can actually transcend pretty much any habit that you're trying to create for yourself. If you're not committed to yourself, if you're not looking out for your best interest, then who is? And so you need to be committed to yourself. And that is something that I remind myself almost on a daily basis, because I especially feel as like an online entrepreneur, business owner, sometimes it can be really like isolating and hard to stay on task. And especially when it feels like all of the days roll together as one long day. So I want to give you a really practical tip. So write down specifically your end goal and work backwards from there. So what is your end goal? What is that habit that you're trying to create? So in this video, we are trying to create productive bookkeeping habits. Now, that is the end goal. So how are we going to get there? So my second tip for you today is to start with only one bite-sized habit. Now, there's a lot of psychology out there when it comes to creating habits. The one bite-sized habit that you need to do, like, let's just kind of think let's take a step back and think about like the larger picture. In order to get from point A to point B, what do you need to do? You need to take one step at a time, right? So that one bite-sized habit is take one step. And then next week you create another habit, and maybe that's taking the second step. And then the week after that is taking the third step. So one bite-sized habit at a time. Now, I feel like, especially with my personality, I feel like I can create, like, have all of these ideas of all of these habits that I want to create all at the same time. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to do everything at the same time. And that doesn't work out well for me. That might work out for like day 1 or maybe week 1 or something like that. But in the end, like, it is in my best interest if I do one bite-sized habit a day. So let me give you an example of like my own personal life. So I have been trying to increase my movement overall. And especially with like a desk job, I feel like I'm just sitting down a lot. And so I have a standing desk, I have a walking treadmill, like I have all of these tools in place, but I don't have that habit created yet. So it's been really hard to like add more movement into my life. So I finally just told myself, like, one bite-sized habit. What is that one bite-sized habit that I can do on a daily basis to get me from point A to point B? And I decided that I would just take a small walk every morning. So I've been kind of experimenting, like, what's the best time to do that? Before breakfast, after breakfast, when I first wake up, like, when does it best suit me? And I have found that I have really looked forward to taking this very small walk every morning. I just do a loop around the block. It's between 10 to 15 minutes total. And it like brightens my whole day. In fact, I think there was one day where I was just like, I enjoyed it so much that I also took an afternoon walk around the block, which isn't typical for me to do like 2 walks in one day. Sometimes I do a really long walk, sometimes I do a short walk. But for that particular day, I ended up doing 2 walks. And so I felt like, okay, I feel like I'm getting stronger with this habit. And so it is now becoming a habit. And now my next habit that I'm trying to create is waking up a little bit earlier to get more done during my day. So not necessarily to get more done during my day, I said that wrong, but just to have a little bit more me time in the morning before I start my day. Anyway, I digress, but that is what the next habit that I'm working on. So when it comes to your bookkeeping, like I said, I'm talking about doing a habit, something so small that takes anywhere from 5 minutes to 15 minutes total. So the commitment level is so small that it feels so attainable. And that's the whole point of this. It's like when you can commit to yourself to doing what's in your best interest every single day for 5 to 15 minutes every day, you start to create this momentum and you start to build that trust in yourself that yeah, I can do this habit. And you do surprise yourself at times, especially like I talked about, like taking the 2 walks in that one random day. It's like I would have never even considered that in the first place, but I went ahead and did it and it felt great. And so starting with a super small habit will be more palatable for you. It will provide that encouragement that you can create productive bookkeeping habits. And here's a couple of habits that you might want to create to start off with. So the first habit is to check your bank account every morning, review all of the transactions from the prior day, make sure you understand what each of those transactions are for. Now, I'm talking to my business owners here because there are some subscriptions that you might be subscribed to that you don't need to be subscribed to. And that is eating into your checking account, or that's, being a charge on your credit card every month that you have to pay off. Now, if you are on top of it and checking your bank accounts, credit card accounts every morning, you're going to identify that faster. In fact, you will become more familiar with your spending habits by doing this one small habit. So that is one example. The second example is to log into QuickBooks and categorize the transactions from your banking feed from the prior day. Now, if you do this, same kind of theory as far as like checking your bank account or credit card accounts. But if you do this on a daily basis, you will find that doing your bookkeeping is so much easier. Like instead of just like waiting months on end, all of these transactions build up. And then you're like, oh my goodness, I have to take care of this. Then it feels like an overwhelming task. But if you tackle these tasks every single day between 5 minutes to 15 minutes total, you will feel like you have a handle on everything. You will feel so much more ahead than you did when you just waited months and months on end. Now, my third tip feels a little bit like a no-brainer, but don't overthink it. I think oftentimes when we want to start creating more productive habits, I feel like you kind of have like the paralysis of analysis. You're just like, okay, where should I start? What is my first step? What do I do? You're just like deer in the headlights, and then you don't get anything done. There's no action on your part. And I like, trust me, the reason why I feel like I have so much to say is because I have been there multiple times over. And like, for example, I've been trying to swim a little bit more rather than just once a week, trying to add in like a second time each week. And if I don't overthink it, if I just have my swim bag ready to go in the morning, just grab my swim bag and just go, like you go through the motions of like taking that one step and then the next step and then the next step. And all of a sudden I'm at the gym. All of a sudden I'm changing. I'm just going through the motions. I'm trying not to overthink it. And then I'm in the pool and I got to work out in. And so same thought process with this, like, don't overthink it. Just do that first step that we talked about. And this kind of goes back to like my first point of like, what is your specific end goal? So go back to that, write that down on a Post-it note, post it somewhere where it's super visible for you to see, like, what is your end goal? Okay, for this video, the end goal is creating productive bookkeeping habits, because maybe you don't have productive bookkeeping habits. Maybe you're not doing your bookkeeping. And then when it comes time for tax time, you're like, oh my goodness, what am I supposed to do? So like, go back to that end goal. You want to create productive bookkeeping habits. So that is what you need to focus on. Don't overthink it. Don't start thinking of like all of these other things that are included of it. Go back to that first piece of what is your end goal? What is that first micro habit that you can do in order to get there? My fourth helpful tip for you is to reduce distractions. Okay, so again, one of those no-brainer things, like, of course, we have to reduce distractions in order to get things done, right? In order to be productive, in order to create productive bookkeeping habits, we have to reduce those distractions. So whatever noise is going on out there for you, figure out a way that you can reduce that distraction. Now, for me, it's social media. I feel like I could probably be on like Instagram stories or YouTube shorts, like all day. And then I would get zero things done. And then my clients would be upset with me. So in order for me to reduce that distraction, there is a setting on my phone. It's called like modes, and you can kind of like create specific modes. So there's like a sleep mode, like a theater mode, and then I have a work mode. And so on my work mode, I like limit app usage on like almost all of my apps, except for like, I think they have it embedded where there's like specific apps that you can't limit the usage because, in case of emergency. So like text messages, phone calls, and then I put like my podcast player on there as well. So in my work mode, I literally cannot look at my phone for any kind of enjoyment. It's just a text message, a phone call, or listening to a podcast. And those things don't necessarily distract me or take me away from a task. So I allow those to, just happen in my life. Now, for you, it might be something different. But for me, I am committed to myself. I am committed to my success. And because I feel like it's not in my best interest to be on social media all the time, then I have to create those boundaries for myself. And like, I have to kind of like save me from myself, So whatever you need to do, reduce your distraction. And that way you can stay focused on your bite-sized habit. Now, my fifth and last tip for you today is to give yourself space and grace. And maybe this one isn't so much of a no-brainer as it just is my advice to you. And the thing is, like, we're all human. Like, we're all still going to stumble and we're going to fall short of ourselves, of our own goals, and of our own habits. And so, I mean that we need to take that step back if that's what we need to do. There are definitely situations that can come up in our lives that can certainly deter us from our tasks at hand, and it's an emergency or it's something needed. And so, of course, you need to take that step back. You need to give yourself some space. And then you also need to give yourself some grace because, like, there's also something at play here when I feel like when you don't like meet up to your own expectations, sometimes we can be our own worst critic. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like withhold that critic from yourself. Tomorrow's a new day, or let me just step back for this hour and then start again. Maybe I had a rough morning. Give yourself some grace for that. We're not always going to be 100% of the time. So that's all I mean by that is just make sure that you have that empathy and compassion for yourself as you would your friend or your colleague or your spouse. So lastly, I have heard it said that it takes 21 days to create a habit. Now, this means it could take you up to 3 weeks in order for this habit to actually stick. And that's also like going back to my first point of being committed to yourself. So let's say you start, like checking your bank account every day, or you're starting to enter your transactions in QuickBooks every day, but then you fall off one of the days. Get right back on the next day. And then make sure that you stay committed to yourself moving forward. I think like one day isn't going to be such a detriment. I think a week is probably going to set you back a little bit. But again, like Give yourself that space and grace to create that habit. Maybe it doesn't take you 21 days. Maybe it takes you 60 days to create a habit. I feel like for me, like if I'm really honest, it probably took me all year to create my daily walking habit. And I was committed to myself that I really, really, really wanted to start increasing my movement. And I know it was good for me. I know it's good for my body, my mind, my energy. It was in my best interest, but it was so hard to get there for me. Now, for you, it might be something different. Maybe you have a daily walking habit and it's totally easy for you. I did not have that same experience. And this is going to be the same when it comes to bookkeeping. Not everyone is going to have that same experience. So after 21 days, what I would recommend is to kind of perform like a review and adjust as needed. So maybe you've been checking your bank account every day and you're like, okay, I probably don't need to do this every day. Maybe I just need to do this once a week. So then you adjust your habit to once a week. And maybe it's not between 5 to 15 minutes, maybe it's 30 minutes. Same goes for your QuickBooks. So maybe you've been doing this on a daily basis and you're like, I probably don't need to do this on a daily basis, but maybe I need to do this 3 times a week or twice a week or once a week. And so you adjust that habit and you maybe spend a little bit more time on it twice a week or once a week. So that's kind of what you need to do, is have like a self-evaluation, like how is this micro habit doing? And then what's the next micro habit that I want to do in order to start creating productive bookkeeping habits? So, that could be one piece of it. But the other piece of it is maybe this habit isn't even working out for you. So you have to go back to the drawing board and create a different goal. And that's okay too. So everyone's going to be different. Everyone's goals and habits and micro habits are going to be different. But I'd like to offer these steps to you as a means to just get you started. This is the first step. So the next step is you being committed to yourself, and it's going to be up to you. All right, friends, that is all I have for you today. I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys in the next one.